All right, so Luke Towey, thanks a million for coming on today. How are you keeping?
All good, Kevin. Not too bad. Thanks for having me.
So I think it's nearly a month since the season ended with Sligo. So are you kind of back into fully club mode at this stage, or what's that been like since the season ended?
Yeah, no, it's been probably about a month now. Been a funny enough one. It was just kind of a funny season, but kind of getting back in with the club. And I actually got a bit of a knock in the game just before Fermanagh, so just kind of working my way back from that. But looking forward to the club now. We've been kind of knocking on the door a bit the last few years, so just hopefully can keep driving on from that with a good group there at the club. So looking forward to do that. But obviously, yeah, bit of a break now, which is nice and needed as well.
Yeah, I know we were just chatting there. You said you're away in Spain at the moment. Like, does it take a bit of time to reset after a county season? Because I'd imagine, once you're in there, it's so intense for, probably 8 months of the year, whatever length it is. So like, does it take a bit of time before you can reset and start focusing on club again?
Yeah, I think it's sometimes find year to year it just changes so much. Like I think some years you're like, oh, I can't wait to get back to the club, and then I think that everyone would relate to this who's at Intel. Sometimes you're like, oh, geez, I need a break, and I just couldn't face it. I think this year for me, I couldn't wait to get back. Now, typically, I've just a wee knock that I'm looking after. It won't be long, but I'm back kind of running now. But I just kind of can't wait. But I think it kind of comes in waves. I don't know what it is. Is it the intensity of the year? Is it as you maybe mature and you kind of know how to manage your body throughout the season and things like that? Or I don't know. As you're going through your career, you're kind of looking forward to kind of enjoying that time with your club and your county, and you're maybe enjoying football more. I'm not sure what it is. I've probably had more times where I'm coming back out with the county season kind of really drained and kind of like, oh God, like I need a break. This year I was kind of ready to get straight back into it, to be honest. Now that might be a bad thing later on in the season when we come back to go and with Sligo again, but I think it just comes in waves. I don't know what it is, but I'm kind of happy to be in this mindset anyway.
Mm. And the year with Sligo then, like it probably wasn't the best year in terms of your expectations. Like I know you had a decent year in Division Three. You would have, I think it was fifth you came, but probably disappointed in terms of your performance in Connacht and then the Tailteann Cup as well. How do you reflect on the year?
Well, it was an unacceptable year from like us and like I think across the group we that I think over the last few years we've been really kind of starting to gain a bit of respect. And we've been competing well in Connacht. We have been competing very well in the Tailteann Cup and competing very well in Division 3. And probably had a couple of years where we could have gone up. A couple of years where we got to one Connacht final. We probably should have got to another one. Lost to Galway with a last minute goal in Markovich Park. Mayo last year, like good tight game. Um, this year was just yeah, in terms of the standards we set and the expectations we have that we put on ourselves as a group. And never mind outside, we don't really care about external expectations, but in terms of what we expect and what we know we're capable of, it was just miles off it. So yeah, disappointed, but something we'll obviously look at, and we don't have time to sit around and wonder what's going on. We have to figure it out and kind of get it together because that group we have is too good. And I fully believe we can do something special with it. But yeah, we need to find the kind of issues and identify them and go from there.
Yeah, and like you obviously there's a lot of really good underage teams in Sligo the last 2 years, so you're trying to embed those under 20s into the team. The last couple of seasons, like you don't have to go into kind of private conversations and stuff within the squad. Have you identified where things didn't quite click this year for the team, or is it just a case of didn't perform on certain days in big games?
We're in the process of kind of looking at it now. I think the most important thing to say is everyone on the Sligo team and everyone involved all want the best for Sligo, and we're all trying to do the best. We all want to win. So I don't think it's anything major, like, but we just have to sit down, and we haven't really got done it yet. It's early, like, we're probably 3 or 4 weeks post. It's probably be start happening around now. We'll start meeting up and having our conversations. Um, so it'd be good to just kind of get it all out there and identify. Like I think like the management and all of them have been brilliant. They're all like really good Sligo men, like that want the best for Sligo. We're all Sligo players who want the best for Sligo. So, um, and they've done it. Like the management we have, they've won a kind of title, a lot of them, and so they know what it takes. But it's just about having them conversations internally and making sure we can get the best out of this group. And I think yeah, whatever we can do to do that, we're willing to do so. I think there probably will be some tough conversations over the next few weeks, but I think that's where the growth comes from.
Yeah, I'm interested in, say, I know like you would have changed management recently as well. How does it look when you finish an intercounty season? Is there, like, say when it ends as it did for you, is there just kind of no contact then for a while, and then maybe you'll have a meet up during the club campaign, or does it depend on the management? Like, what does it actually look like then when you're all sitting down and reflecting on a year, or do you just wait until, say, October, November, whenever you're getting back together?
Yeah, so it depends purely, I'd say, on I suppose your role and within the team and how long you've been there for. I'd say like I when I was starting out, you go through plenty of years where you just finish up the season. You might speak to a coach might ring you. Like I remember Joe or Tony, would ring you maybe 2 or 3 weeks after, just kind of have a chat with you, like how did you feel things went. And I'd say every player kind of would experience that. Um, but then I suppose there's added conversations in terms of maybe having conversations with coaches and managers now, which I probably just because I've been around a bit longer now, and you're probably involved in them conversations as to where can we potentially improve and what does that look like. So you're probably having a bit more kind of chats. Like I'll probably meet up with Desi or Eamon, have a chat with them, and there'll be a lot of other lads kind of doing something similar. But yeah, I think it starts probably pretty quickly in terms of what next year looks like and where can we improve, which is a positive thing. Like you want to be hearing them things and getting involved in them conversations. And if you can add anything at all to help us improve, that's what you're looking to do. So that's kind of typically how it would look. And then as I said, some players, might finish up and then the next time they hear is kind of a call to come back in. But everyone goes through that phase of being them. So I think it just comes down to, I suppose, your role and maybe how long you've been around in terms of the contact you might have and the conversations you might be having once the season ends.
Yeah, would you be one of the more senior players in the squad now?
I don't know. In terms of age, I probably, maybe I'm 26 now. So it's hard. We have a lot of like really good leaders, like you look at like the likes of Niall Murphy, like even Canis Mulligan, who's obviously under 20 few years ago, but is like a real leader amongst the group. Um, but I suppose in terms of the long time I've been like I obviously was my first year was 2018, and then I went to Australia for 2 years, and I've been in since. So I've probably been in and around the boys like if I didn't go to Australia, probably been around 8 years now. So I've been there a while. Um but yeah, I think it's probably starting to grow into that a bit more where you probably have to start taking a bit of ownership and start kind of drive things on a bit, which I could definitely embrace.
Mm. So was it 2020 when you came back from Australia? Was it during
21.
COVID? Like 21? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Um,
yeah, during COVID.
yes. Yeah, I know. I was reading back through interviews you would have done at the time and stuff, but COVID probably didn't help in terms of your progression over there, did it? It probably made things a bit more difficult with the Suns when you were trying to make the breakthrough.
Oh yeah, well, it was an absolute kind of nightmare time and waste for me. Now it was a great experience, like absolutely loved it, but like just kind of I went over in November, and in January, February of 2020, COVID hit. So there was just a halt to absolutely everything. And I remember I was good friends with, I suppose, Mark Keane and Ross McQuillan and Keane McBride. All at the time, we were all over there, and I remember being on the phone to Mark Keane, and I was like, I was thinking I was going to stay over and like just kind of keep training and do a bit. And I remember him telling me, "You're mad, like you need to come home." And so I was like, "Right, sound." So we all ended up going home. So that was a good. I think we were home for 7 or 8 weeks, and then when we came back, it was it was just a mess. Like in terms of games being played, I think in my first year, you're meant to play 20 something games. I think I played 4 games in my first year. Um,
Yeah.
so like that was yeah. In terms of development or like getting an even a crack at it, like it was non-existent. The second year then was a bit better. Um, Started developing really well. Like in terms of we got a development coach. It was kind of a bit more structured year, but COVID was still rampant. Like around that time, we were. I remember at times we would be. So I was on the obviously the senior list, but obviously if there was like 20 something players selected to go play AFL at the senior team, they'd go down to Melbourne. There was like they would fly down and there'd be like maybe 7 or 8 of us kind of left, like just doing training in Gold Coast, like on our own. And it was like that. And we ended up getting all brought down to Melbourne and we were in like a hub in Melbourne, all like training, but like there was no games. We were just kind of training and hanging around. So there's probably a few more games the second year, but just, yeah, the development was just massively hit. And then like I had my girlfriend at home, and parents hadn't seen. I went over when I was 19, like, um, was halfway through a degree in DCU, um, which I was trying to get held for as long as I could, and it was starting to slip away a bit, and I couldn't really risk losing that either. Um, and yeah, hadn't seen my parents obviously in probably 16, 17 months straight. So like at 19, 20 years of age, like that's tough. But like I'd never regret it. Like it was a great experience. Like,
Yeah, it's funny. I'm coaching Tullamore at the moment, and we have
yeah,
guy Killian Burke who just signed with Essendon last year. He's gone over this year, but like he's 19 going over there, and it's such a, you're so young. You're obviously quite inexperienced in terms of travel and stuff. It's such a big thing at that age. So like it's a massive. There's a lot to deal with. Like if you probably haven't traveled that much, you mightn't even have lived outside the family home and stuff. So even just moving to the other side of the world, and I know there's a lot of Irish that will support you once you go to the AFL and stuff. But at the same time, it's even not taking into account learning a new sport and all the physical challenges that come with that. Just on the mental side of things, it's huge as well.
absolutely. Like I think you don't realize it at the time. Like I was so laser focused on like when I got the original interest. I was like, Jesus, like I was like, I definitely want. I didn't even bat an eyelid at it, but I think when I'm playing, the thing I think I'm seeing now is when I'm playing with my club now. Like as I said, I'm 26 now, and I'm like playing with lads on our Malosh Grange senior team that are 18, 19, and I'm just like looking at them and thinking, how how did I go to Australia at your age? Like, to be honest with you. So it's mad when you're looking back at it that way and kind of seeing younger lads. Um, yeah, but I think you're just so caught up in a bubble, and it's not a normal thing to happen, but it was you go over at that age. Like Red Oak, I think went over when he was like 17 or 18, so he hadn't even done a leaving cert. At least I had a year in college done, so that made a big difference. So you just look at things like that, and you're probably seeing it as normal, and that this is just the way things happen. But I suppose it probably was an abnormal experience and quite a pressurized one as well.
Yeah, there must be a huge amount that you can bring back to your own playing career, your own training when you do come back in. Like I remember you were talking before about maybe trigger words that you would have had that you would have learnt in Australia as well that you were able to bring back. Like was there a lot that you could just as an athlete, and in terms of your own training that you could bring back in and that has helped you over the last number of years playing intercounty football?
Yeah, definitely. Like there's a big like transition there. And obviously being in a there's a transition there, but then also like stuff that you can bring across, like being involved in a professional environment, like you're around the best athletes within their given like kind of code. So you pick up a massive amount of things. Like that's probably where like I know we'll touch on the journal, but like that's where probably a lot of that came from. Bringing that in, um, and then like triggers and targets and things like that, which a lot of players would have like individual targets, which is very common in the GA as well. So it's not anything brand new or anything, but I suppose people kind of know about these things and probably aren't doing them. So having like targets, triggers, um, like kind of when things happen, can you just what's your next target? Like what's your next kind of trigger? Like when you're not on the ball, can you what's my job? Like am I trying to get contact on, get a tackle on? When I with the type of player I am, and when we don't have the ball, like how can I get involved here and create a score? Like or how can I break a line? And so it's just about like thinking in the moment, like of in relation to your goals, your targets, that they are attainable and like what you need to do in whatever phase of play it is, whether that's defense or offense.
I remember listening to Chrissy McKaig a few years ago talking about coming back from the Swans, and there was a huge amount in terms of the culture in the Swans that he would have brought back into Schlockneil, and you obviously seen the success that Schlockneil had once he came back in there. But like just around that culture piece, around just a squad being tied together or different things that like you would have done say in Gold Coast, like was there different things you could bring back as well that help with that side of things?
Yeah, there's massive things. I think the big difference probably with being able to creating culture is possible in every environment, but I think creating a culture in a place where you're with each other 24/7 basically is probably a lot easier.
Yeah.
Like I was living with three of the players, I was going to work with three of the players, um, so like that makes a big difference. When you're in that circle as well, you socialize together because you don't really want to socialize outside that, especially well, it didn't matter to me, but I'm just saying the older lads, or the kind of more established players are probably just kind of sticking in their kind of group amongst each other. The times you can socialize, you're being with each other. But in terms of cultural stuff, like I think like there's a lot of bonding things that you do. Like we went to Queenstown in New Zealand for like a training camp. That was unbelievable. Like we ran up. I can't remember the name of the mountain, but I remember we ran up this mountain. It was the hardest thing I ever done in my life. It was like it was a ski resort in Queensland. I'm sure Queenstown. I'm sure some people will know about it. The mountain there I'm talking about. I can't remember what it's called, but we had to run up that. Like, it was in summertime, so there was no snow. We ran up it, and you could see like the ski lifts. And I just remember it was like this, like over and back, and it was just like you'd get close to where you need to be, and then they'd bring you back the other way, and
Yeah.
it was mentally like the hardest thing I've ever done. So I think a lot of them sort of things are key in terms of building a culture, but also like setting very clear standards and upholding them, such a buzzword sort of thing. But I think amongst the group in terms of driving culture, your culture is driven by your standards, like, and what standards can you set amongst the group and uphold them, and that's the hardest thing to do, I think. Um, it's the hardest thing to maintain them, and you have to have real buy-in from everyone, and a real direction where you're going, and I suppose a real accountability. Because the struggle you have is, you're friends with some players, and you don't want to call them out, and like your club, and it's hard to call people out. But I think creating an environment where that's that call out culture is there, and it's accepted, and you know, it's not as ever. Look, I've been called out loads of times, and you snap back at people. Like, it's just natural. But if you can create an environment, I think the top elite environments that I've experienced in terms of like Gold Coast or that, um, had that, and it was just accepted and not taken kind of, personally, which I think we all, human nature, it is that you would take it personally, like.
Mm. I'm interested in the S&C side of things as well. Like, I know S&C and GAA has definitely moved on in the last 5 years as well. But when you first went out, was there much of a difference? And again, it's professional, so you've a lot more time to work on this stuff. But did you notice a big difference in terms of how the Aussies do it, their own training in the gym and everything on the pitch?
So when I done 1 year, I was still under 20 when I went out to Australia, but I was on the senior team, so I had played like the first 2 games or 3 games of the senior of the league for Sligo, and then I continued with under 20s. I kind of just, there was too much going on, so I stepped away from the seniors and just played at the 20s, and then went out to Australia. So I hadn't had too much exposure. Like, I think in Sligo at that time, we had done a lot of gym work since we were like whatever, under 14 to under 16, um, and then into seniors, and we had a bit there. But I suppose I hadn't had too much exposure to it, and it was like grand. I'm sure every county is quite similar. When I went out to Australia, obviously, like, it was obviously unbelievable. It was crazy. Like, it's easier to do because you're constantly there before training and after training. You have these unbelievable facilities. Um, but then, like, just coming back to Sligo after being in Gold Coast, we have a strength and conditioning coach called Sean Boyle, from Mayo, and he's it just made me realize that what we're doing over there is very similar to what intercounty teams are doing here. Um, I think the knowledge, for example, from my experience, that he'll, like, obviously, I think he'll definitely go to a professional setup at some stage. But we're so lucky in the GA, I think, to have the strength and conditioning side and the knowledge and the expertise involved in our sports. And I would say there was like basically no difference between the S&C over there compared to here. Now, in terms of running on the pitch and volume, it's just different. But in terms of the methodology and the knowledge and the understanding of the body, and what you need to be doing, and loading, and in the gym and specific programs, like, the knowledge we have in Ireland, I think, there's a lot of Irish S&C coaches in AFL teams, like, at the moment. Like, I
Yeah.
think Sydney do have it.
Shane
Um,
Han, yeah.
yeah, and like GWS might, I think, as well. So I don't know if that's right, but there's definitely two or three. Essendon might, I'm not sure, but anyway, they did. But yeah, no, I think that's just shows what we're dealing with kind of over here. So, like, I think that's a really good positive for us, like, over here.
Mm. That's interesting on the Sligo S&C then. Can you bring us through, like, say when you're playing, say in championship, if you're playing every 2 weeks, what would your S&C look like in terms of the gym work as a squad?
Yeah, so it would obviously differ. So Monday we always have gym. We train on a Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. That's like our schedule. Monday we always have a gym session. So if we start our week from there, Wednesday, if like a big session, we'd probably have gym beforehand. So kind of like power based gym, or like kind of activation kind of gym stuff. So like your jumps, your barbell jumps, your, like, maybe a bit of bench pressing or whatever it is with a band, things like that. And then you're going into your session, and then you're coming back in after, and you're doing your kind of more heavy lifting stuff. So, um, things like that. So obviously, like your just standard gym work there, your lower bit of lower body, bit of upper body. Now that can be spread across Wednesday and Friday, or Wednesday and Sunday. I'd imagine he has his kind of loads depending on if it's a real heavy session on a Wednesday. We'll not do the lowers on the Wednesday. We might do it on a Friday or whatever. But typically, nearly before and after most sessions, we would be doing gym. On a Friday, then might be no gym beforehand and a bit of gym after, and then Sunday typically before and after. If it's a real big session on Sunday, maybe nothing after. But like I don't know, I can't. I'm just such kind of clockwork now at this stage. I'm not sure exactly what it entails or how often we do it, but it feels like we do gym before and after nearly every session. But
Yeah, right.
uh, it's obviously not that way. But like we're doing obviously gym on a Monday, a bit of activation work before most sessions, and then between Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, probably doing 2 gym sessions after.
Yeah. And what does the Monday one look like? Is that individual? What kind of stuff would you be doing?
And it's kind of full body, yeah, everything
Okay,
like
yeah.
would be individualized, like be all your like kind of upper body strength and lower body strength, um, and everything like that. And then some of them gym sessions, say on the Wednesday and the Friday and Sunday, might be purely like like a bit of hamstring weighted holds, or like like real kind of stuff that's going to like prehab stuff that's going to keep you kind of your muscles strong and that, and keep things ticking over. But yeah, the Monday would be probably your biggest gym session of the week. It's your main
Yeah.
session.
Yeah, and like a few years before you went out to Australia, I remember there was a lot of players coming back, and maybe it was because they were picking up big injuries as well. But a lot of players that went to the AFL and came back into GA kept breaking down with injuries, and there was a kind of common thing where they struggled just to get back playing inter-county football. That has obviously changed in the last number of years. Like some of the guys you talked about, Ross McQuillan, Keane McBride, yourself slot straight back in at county level. Did you pick up much injuries, or did you have any thoughts around coming back in and concerns around injuries?
Oh, it was on my radar. Well, I think it was on my radar. Am I going to be the same player I was before I left? For without a doubt. Like I think that's only normal. Like you're 2 years away, so that's was my only probably concern. I wasn't worried about getting injured or that. Like I've had a couple injuries, but it's mainly like unavoidables. Like I've had little hamstring or muscle injuries. Typically things like like I broke my ankle, and I've had injuries like that where you can't really like avoid them. They're just pure like kind of contact ones. That was my kind of main injury. But other than that, like just little niggles now and again, but like nothing. I didn't find it or wasn't concerned about it kind of coming back over. Again, that comes down to probably the likes of Sean Boyle and Alan Dunn, our physio over there in Sligo, like that. They're all over it. Like they understand. I remember actually the first session I came back in Sligo in the Dome. Sean Boyle came up to me and like listed all the injuries I had out in Australia. So he'd already been in contact with the doctor in Australia and asking like about my like past like stuff. So that just shows, and obviously that's automatically goes into what he's going to set out for me for the season.
Mm. Yeah, that is interesting. Um, and like, did you find any, like, say, did you find your aerobic capacity was a lot stronger when you came back, or because I know like the game there, obviously it's a lot longer. You have more distance. Did you find that you were doing maybe your speed was different, or any changes you would have noticed in your body when you came back?
Yeah, I think like I wouldn't be overly known for running too. I'm run quick, but I wouldn't run too far, too much. But I in fairness, when I came back from Australia, I was in ridiculous condition, like in terms of aerobically, like I had I had trained so hard for that 2K time trial that we done, and I got myself in really strong condition. But I remember coming back and playing a challenge game against Fermanagh, and Joe Kane, our coach, rang me after and said to me that geez, you worked hard, which he'd never usually say to me, and because he had me the years before. But he said you work fucking real hard, like, but your kind of football probably, it was my first game back. He says it
Yeah,
is obviously there yet, like, and I was just like, yeah, no, 100%. But I think there was a big difference there. But I'm obviously just kind of right now I'm back into the GA mode of like high speed sprint and repeat efforts. Like that's my main thing that I'm good at. Like, um, so a balance of that is good. Like we're obviously all fit, but I definitely it's a different fitness. Like completely, really, like you're running 13, 14 kilometers in a game in Australia. Like, and the high speed stuff is not as much there. Whereas here, like my high speed would be really high, and my kilometers would be maybe near the bottom of like some like maybe 8 kilometers gain, whatever, like 8 to 9 kilometers, like. So that's kind of where where it is and where it's transitioned to, like, in terms of aerobically.
Mm. Like this might lead us on to talk about the performance journal, but was there aspects that you would have learned in the AFL about, say, how you approach the game mentally going into a game, like a big game like that, or how the Aussies would do things around? Because I know a lot of clubs, I'd say every club has a psychologist or a performance coach that you'd be working with. So what did you pick up over there?
Yeah, it was actually interesting. We had a psychologist over there, but it was kind of optional, which I found very interesting. Which is probably a normal thing, but I thought kind of among groups, like you look at the likes to say like Caroline Curd or that, um, she's obviously involved with Limerick, and that she's from our club, and I know like her stuff is not optional. It's like kind of a team thing, and everyone buys into it. So I had kind of my idea of psychology was from that point of view, just from her. Whereas when I went over there, it was kind of like some lads were just like, "Who is this fella? I don't." In terms of the psychologist, I don't really want to be listening to him. So it was kind of very optional in terms of who done it and who didn't. I done it just to see like what it was like. And it was like definitely different. Like it was a lot of meditation stuff, funnily enough, and visualization, which I definitely done. And tried, and just kind of getting yourself kind of in the zone and focusing on them targets and what you're trying to achieve. So there was definitely a big element to that over there. And then obviously that probably falls into your journaling and getting prepped. So like having your targets and setting them and then visualizing them and seeing yourself doing them. And it's definitely something I've brought over here now. I don't get myself too worked up before games. I get worked up before most things in life, but not football, which is good in terms of when I'm going playing a game or whatever. And so like I don't like to get too kind of in my head or that. I just like to have a bit of a laugh. Like obviously be focused on what I'm trying to do and what my targets are. But um, yeah, I don't like to get too worked up before a game, and I don't. So I feel if I'm sitting in a room and meditating and closing my eyes, it's kind of like, is this a bit over the top? Like, whereas I think sitting in a room during the week, maybe once or twice, just sitting, just closing your eyes and just thinking about things I would think about is like just putting my bag into the changing room, walking out on the pitch. I always walk out and do a lap of the pitch before thinking about that, like standing in a national anthem and just like imagining that. I just think when you're in the moment, then it's like you've been here 2 or 3 times this week, uh, and maybe making a couple of runs or like a couple of scores or breaking through a line, like just one or two little things like that, just to keep it in mind. And I do that a couple of times, maybe twice a week, and lead up to a game, just for like 2 or 3 minutes. And I just find whether it helps or not, I think when I'm in them moments, I feel like kind of I've been there already during the week multiple times. Specifically in the most nervy moments when you're in the national anthem or you're like lining up for your spot. Like they're the things where you're like you don't feel anything when you get into a game. Like you don't feel the nerves. But them moments you do. So they're kind of things that I've probably taken back at me that I've started like implementing into the GA side of things, like, you know.
Yeah, because you'd always find I lived in Sydney for a year, and the Aussies are kind of ahead when it comes to how they think about sport and the sports science and even the psychology side of things. So that is interesting. I just wonder, like, what's your internal dialogue like then before a game? Like, say, you're playing a Connacht final or a big championship game against Mayo, Galway, or Roscommon, and it's a full house. What's going through your head in those moments, like you mentioned, the anthem or walking around the pitch? Or
Yeah.
is it much?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I think I've really started, and people really cringe at this, but I kind of start like just trying to look around as much as I can. Like I've consciously this year in the last few years, like when we're in the national anthem, like just looking around the lads, like even being in the dressing room, like, these are all lads that you're like such good mates with, and like these are great days. Um, so to be honest with you, just looking around that, and when we're playing teams, like just internally, it's just about like your own targets and belief in your own ability, and like don't really care who I'm playing against, like, or who I'm marking or whatever. Like that would never bother me. Like, um, I have good belief in what I can do, like, and I have good belief in like what the Sligo lads around me can do. Like, I think we've some unbelievable players. So I think just trying to enjoy that moment and like take it in. Whereas before, you might just be going, as I said, nervous within yourself. But like if you can actually, I found it just helps so much. Like if you can constantly just be like, nearly put a smile on your face, like looking around the national anthem and stuff, um, makes a huge difference. I think in terms of, I think even looking back in years to come, at least when I've done that, it probably feels like I haven't let it kind of pass me by, and I'm consciously like aware that it's a nice moment to be in, and these are probably days that in 10 or 15 years I'll be looking back and like craving them again. So, just try and make the most of each game as they come. But definitely want and believe we will be involved in bigger games in days to come. Just obviously this year was tough. But yeah, don't want that to happen again.
Yeah, I remember interviewing Jack McCaffrey a few years ago, and if you look at any pictures of him before All Ireland finals in the parade, he's smiling, he's looking up to the crowd, and he's taking it all in, and it's that's a player who doesn't get too tensed up before games and just really tries to enjoy it, and you can see the difference it makes to him. Talk to me about the journal then. Like, what was the genesis of it? Was it built up over a number of years, and how did you actually nail down all the specific different parts of it?
Yeah, no. So the journal, I started the performance journal, and the idea is for it's kind of athletes of all levels, whether you're literally an intercounty footballer or you're someone trying to do the first 5, 10K or marathon or high rocks or whatever it is. So the idea came from basically like just being able to kind of track things and keep track and get motivated by it. Because I think when you're training for anything, you're looking to do something, being able to track like after each session or after each kind of game that like did you the attainable targets you set, whether that be like put in 2 tackles, whether that be, you know, and run 2 kilometers today or hit my goal of 10 kilometers for the week, whatever it is, and that you're able to like just track that and see the constant improvements. And also like the first section kind of has goal setting and like your why. I think knowing your why in sport and whatever you're doing is super important, because when you get injuries or when you don't want to get up and do that run or when you don't want to go to that gym session, like being able to flick back and see like the reason you're doing things is a massive motivator. So like this isn't, again, it's not going to make you an unbelievable athlete or and guarantee you're going to save your goals or achieve your goals, but it's definitely, I feel it adds percentages and motivates you. And anything I think that motivates you when you're just, I think the brain, when it starts seeing after this session, I done this, I'm seeing improvements. Right, I've ticked off that goal for the week. I'm going to go back to my goals for the year now. And am I one step closer to that? Like, can you start ticking it? And naturally, I think it just start builds momentum. But all these things are habits and like building habits. So that's kind of where it came from. I was using the journal in Australia. I came back to Ireland. I had a black notebook, which I still have. And I used to just, before every game, I used to just drive up to kind of the beach there in Sligo, and I used to just write like my thoughts and like my feelings in terms of like just the game and, you know, being grateful for like the opportunity and that I'm really looking forward to it, and a few like personal things. And that's kind of where it came from. Like I just kind of grew it into a structured journal that athletes can have to set their why, to set their goals, to set their weekly goals, their targets before each session. Like, what are my targets? Key attainable ones, really simple. How are you feeling after reviewing them? Did you hit them? Yes or no? What can you do better next session? And then similarly for a game, like reinforcing positively what went well during your week is the performance section. And then your targets, and then after reviewing, how did they go? Did you achieve them? What to improve the next time? I just feel like it's a real good tool for athletes, as I said, of all levels, um, to keep track of things and achieve their goals ultimately. Like.
Yeah, it is. And like, how did you decide then to turn it into a business? Like, I think you're probably quite entrepreneurial as it is. I know you're involved in setting up Savna Sauna a couple of years ago as well. So like, is it just something in you as well that you want to, you see an opportunity there and you're like, I can make a business out of this?
Definitely, yeah. Well, I'm always looking for something to do, business wise, and this genuinely. I remember the day I thought of it, kind of. I said, "How have I not thought of that yet?" Like, and I said, "That is definitely it." So, funny enough, once I get something in my head, it's probably an ADHD thing, but I get very fixated on it, and I just kind of go for it. Now, this took about 18 months between starting and stopping it, but I think then one day I was like, "All right, I'm doing it," and I just kind of went for it and got it sorted. And yeah, they're selling now. They're doing, look, it's very early days. I'm really trying to get the word out there. That's the hardest part. But like a few teams have been taken, and the down seniors took them. Sligo ladies took them, Sligo 20s, Sligo minors. So I have a few teams taking them. But I think it's a brilliant tool for teams. Like, and I'm obviously being able to do a bulk thing for them. But again, it's just getting the word out there to teams and individuals and players about what it is, what it does, and I think it's something that any athlete, if they see it, they're just gonna pick it up and give it a go. And I advise them to do it. Like,
Yeah, I have one here with me. Like, you obviously sent me one, and the big thing, it's like, you've obviously put a lot of time into, say, the design, how it feels, how it looks as well. Like, it's not just a kind of a cheap product. Like, you look at it and it does look very um expensive, and it's something that you want to take care of as well. Like, so that's another element to it, I'd say, as well, the design.
100%. Like it's just like the Apple iPhones, the opening experience, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
they even make the opening of a iPhone like like that whole like ripping thing. That's all done like it's a psychological thing, and like even taking the plastic off the phone, like that's all a nice moment. So I think with that when that arrived for you, like I'd imagine like it's in a lovely black box with a pen, and you take the plastic off the pen, take the plastic off the notebook, um, and it is like I want it to look good, feel good, and like use it as a tool. Like it looks high end, it looks proper. It's a high performance journal. And yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand. Like if you want your performance to be top tier, you want to have a tool that kind of matches that as well. So like that was important to me for sure.
Um, do you find like playing elite sport that it directly transfers to business then, or when you're creating different things like this, is there a lot of skills that you can take from playing sport to business and transfer across?
100%. Yeah, I think I'm in sales now with HubSpot. I'm an account executive there, and like the correlation between sport and business every day, I'm learning about how it's like, and you see it all the time. Like elite sports people doing corporate talks about, I seen Liam Sheedy doing one before. He was brilliant. Like I know he was involved in the corporate side of things, but the way it links, um, and just what you learn about people and what drives people. And this is just from a sporting point of view, how teamwork and different individuals, like how to achieve success, setting standards, driving a culture. Like I could be telling you that now and you wouldn't know if I'm talking about sport or business, like, achieving targets, hitting targets, high performance, like all them things are literally buzzwords in both corporate and sport and life. So I think the correlation is massive, and bringing elements from both into both, I think are key. And like anyone involved in sport and wants to set a business up or be involved in business, or for example, the industry I'm in, which is tech sales, like you're already off to a winner kind of there. If you have previous success within sport and you can show that you're in a previous a high sport environment or have been involved in them teams, um, you're already like kind of ahead of the curve or ahead of anyone else who isn't involved in like the business side of things, I believe.
Yeah, and you're obviously able to work with people, completely different characters and personalities as well, which definitely helps. One thing I actually forgot to touch on earlier, when you were with the Suns, you would have had some high profile guest speakers into the club as well. And I know like Novak Djokovic was one
Yeah,
of
yeah.
them you'd mentioned on your LinkedIn. It's like, is there anything you can remember from any of those talks that kind of jumps out? I know it's probably hard because it's a number of years ago
Oh, I
now,
can't.
but
I can't remember. The Djokovic one was crazy. Like that was a mad one. Our nutritionist was actually his nutritionist when he done the Australian Open, so that's
okay,
why.
yeah,
And then we had Mick Fanning as well, which was class. The surfer.
oh
Um,
yeah,
he's out, but he's like one of the greatest surfers of all time. Like, but the Djokovic one, I just remember how disciplined he was with his nutrition. Like, it was crazy. Like he was just crazy locked in. Like, would not touch anything. It was like I think any of the best are just a bit psychopathic with things like in terms of you're just like Jesus way over the top. But I think if you look at everyone like Michael Jordan, Djokovic, like I'd imagine like Tiger Woods from similar in certain elements, but like you can just see they're super obsessed with things and nearly hyper obsessed or hyper fixated with things. But I just remember him on about like in the mornings, every morning he'll doesn't eat anything for first half hour, and then he has like a glass of water, hot water with lemon in it, and then he'll have like a smoothie, and like it was just like meticulous about it, and he never ever changes it. Um, and he was also like he came across very kind of not arrogant, but like well maybe a bit arrogant, but like just very like sure in his ability and that he just cannot be beaten. And just wouldn't if you've asked him a question about what if you lose, he just wouldn't even entertain it. I think people can see that. I think naturally from interviews and stuff, he probably comes across that way. But I just remember him being thinking, "Geez, this fella is locked in. Like he is just hyper like locked in on these things," which was something that I definitely still remember. And then Fanning was obviously a bit more laid back. He's a surfer, so them guys are just
yeah.
a bit too much for them. But like we had some brilliant. Is it Justin Longmire as well? Let me just double check. He
Oh,
was the cricket.
AFL
Yeah.
player. Oh, sorry. Okay.
What's John? Is it John Longmire? He was like the Australian cricket coach, and he was very interesting. He was unreal. Yeah, I think it's John Longmire. Oh, I can't see what it is, but anyway, I'll figure it out. But yeah, no, he was unbelievable as well. He was super, super. Oh, Justin Langer, that was his name.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
But yeah, he was unbelievable as well. Like, we were so lucky with like the people that we had like kind of access to and like conversation. But the Djokovic one was definitely the best, and pretty surreal, to be honest.
yeah, that's class. But like I'd say you find like say comparing the AFL experience to intercounty football as well, you probably do need now. Maybe you're not quite as far as Djokovic in terms of that stuff, but I say just to be able to compete at that level, you do need a certain amount of that discipline and obsession to play because it's even physically how much you need to mind your body, recovery, your social life probably has to take a back seat. Everything has to revolve around playing football now. So like I say, a lot of intercounty players are that kind of type A personality as well.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Like, I think you have to. It's not a thing that like you have to want to do it. Like, is the thing. You can't even. It's not like you can force stuff. I think you actually have to want to. Like, it's second nature to me to. I don't know why, it's just nearly grained in your head. Just eat well. Go to the gym, go to the sauna, get recovery, go to the sea. Just becomes like your lifestyle. Like, if you ask like my girlfriend or my parents or that, like, there's no kind of why I do it. It's just like it's just you're ingrained in you, I think, and I think you have to be. I'm sure there's plenty of players that aren't that way inclined, but I think the demands of the game now and what's expected, and unfortunately, if you're not doing them things, and it's not extreme, it doesn't need to be extreme, but it just needs to be a certain level that allows you to ultimately like train hard, play hard, and keep fit. Like,
Just the last couple for you. I'm interested in, like, say after a bad performance or a tough defeat, how do you reset after that? How do you get over that? Does it take long? What does your process look like?
it takes a while. Yeah, I hate losing. I find it hard, especially like this year we lost to Leitrim. That was tough now for us as a group, and I'd never ever lost to them. And yeah, it was poor now.
Mm.
But the net, yeah, that was a tough one for a few days. But I think you just have to. You can't beat like you just a good hard training session. To be honest, I think that's all you can do. You just have to get intensity straight back into training, and you can have your like cry your head over a day or two and feel sorry for yourself, but you just have to get over it and train hard. You can't let them defeats linger. Like, if they linger, you're in serious trouble. And so getting into a training session on the Tuesday and going hard, or Wednesday, I think it was a Tuesday in that case. You just train hard and try drive it, and I think after a good hard training session, all them feelings are subsided anyway. And you just kick on from there. But that's would be the process. Definitely feel sorry for yourself for 24 hours, and then unfortunately it's just revert back to training and getting back on the horse. Like,
Yeah, and that's probably the nature of playing intercounty. You're going to have highs and have the lows as well, so it's just part of it. Just the last one for you, Luke. If I was to look through your journal now, what sort of teams would appear most often over the course of a year?
I think teams in terms of like what I'm saying in it, or what.
Yeah, what's kind of commonly coming up there for you, or what patterns would I notice from if I was able to read through it
Yeah, I would
for a
definitely
season?
say in terms of like t goals and target, like, it'd be very much so very attainable kind of targets. I think throughout the journey it's all about attainable targets. So it'd be very much so around breaking lines, in attacking one, like trying to create scoring opportunities, like little triggers that are gonna, like, when we're in attack, that how can I get on the ball and make something happen? Then defensively, like trying to, I think a good measure of intensity in terms of defense and defensive stuff is like tackles and getting contact on. So there'd be good trends on that, and something I can do, something I'm good at, but like something I would probably naturally kind of struggle with mentally in terms of I'm very, and just like I'd say similar, attacking wise, like no problem, I could do it all day. Defensively I have the ability, but probably takes a bit more to me to get it in my head. So a lot of stuff around that, like I've really in the last year or two, I have tried to like make that more prominent. It's important to have a balance in both. So there'll be elements of that, of triggers on like when we don't have the ball, like where do I need to be? Like, how can I help my team here? It's important. Because I have had a good few kind of man marking roles over the last, obviously like attacking is my main thing, but like probably I've had matchups over the last few years, in terms of the players out in the half forward line, or like kind of main kind of threats for them. So, um, bringing that into my game as well, and that keeps me focused. I think when I have something like that, I don't really have to think about the defensive because I know what I have to do. Um, so that would be a lot of trends, but then a lot of like reinforcement about like my feelings personally, about how I'm feeling, and the belief I have in, suppose, ability and things like that. So just kind of reinforcing that stuff before trainings and games, I think is important. And never forget that as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, look, I'll link the performance journal in the episode description as well. So if people, I would encourage anyone to give it a crack. Like, it's a really great product. So I'll have a
I'll give
link
you
there
a
for
discount
people.
code as well to throw in if anyone wants to get it. I'll give you a discount code that people can use.
Brilliant, yeah. So anyone listening can just scroll down and we'll have it there. But yeah, look, best of luck with the club campaign, and hopefully it goes well for you, and enjoy the rest of the week in Spain. Really appreciate you coming on.
Lovely stuff. Cheers, Kevin. Thank you.